Sess, welcome to Kickin with Keely.
What's up?
LA edition.
LA edition on my couch.
On Sessi's couch. Came down to play in our little Creators Cup with the influencer.
With
of the
Sess
hour.
Money FC.
Yes.
Look.
An honor and a privilege. An honor and privilege. We did get the dub yesterday for anyone that was wondering. You know, we weren't sure how things were going to go. We had some last minute cancellations, but we got it done. We beat the creator team. No one saw that coming. Some interesting calls, but
I will say we were one of the only teams that had females on it. And, you know, the men, they be talking. And I said, okay. And what happened? We won the whole thing. And I said, that's what happens. Don't disrespect us women.
Facts. And we met TST.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when they were doing the whole like Instagram announcement of the team, I was like waiting. So I was like one of the last people selected. I was like the bubble players. And so when I finally like saw the thing come out, your face was the one that was on it. And I had recognized you from like seeing you through soccer and Instagram. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited to meet Lauren. Well, I was calling you Lauren at the time because I didn't know. And I was like, oh my gosh, I wonder if she's gonna be like nice or scary. Because sometimes when you meet like someone that you see on Instagram, like, you know, it can be a little, you never know what you're gonna get.
And a lot of people say that my Instagram isn't the most inviting and warm. They need to see my personality.
Yes. Well, I think that you just look like a badass woman, like you're a businesswoman, and you can see you do it.
Thank you for that, honey. Okay.
We're also having a little wine just because, you know, it's still the weekend for us.
Yeah, we're talking about sparkling water.
Something like that. And so I was excited, but I was a little nervous because I didn't know, and I was like, well, maybe we can just like, we'll have like one conversation. That would be really cool if we had like one combo. And then we spent like 5 days together.
We had so much fun.
We went out 3 nights
in a
row, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday.
Yeah.
And we kind of became besties really fast.
I told the girls, you know, obviously I was the older one, the elder on the team. We won't talk about the age, but, you know, and with all the youngsters, I'm like, look, I promise you guys, I'm going to show you a good time. Because what is so great about TST, not only is it just a fun environment for all of us to play and just like let loose and play the beautiful game that we love, but also it's a great networking experience because you're with people from all over the world. And I think our team, we didn't do so hot, but I will say we came out like really good friendships.
I think we might have been, in terms of socializing, we were winners.
We were
social winners. On the field, not our best collective performance, but we had not a lot of time to practice.
We did not, and we didn't know each other. A lot of other teams knew each other.
We first met was the one practice, and that's when I first got to meet you. I was a little nervous, right? I saw the Instagram, I was like, oh, so official. And I remember that everything was kind of going down, and it was a little hectic because we were like, whoa, we're a little unprepared this early practice.
Yeah.
And while everyone's stressing, a small bit of music starts playing in the background. I don't know from where. And Sess just starts breaking out into a full dance routine. And I mean like a full routine, like coordinated movements with only herself. And I was like, whoa, because I was not expecting this from you. I was like scared to meet you. I still hadn't said hi yet. I'd been like at the event, hadn't said hi yet. We'd been together all day, I'd still not said hi. And then you start doing that, and I was like, oh. I was like, cool. Oh, so she's a little quirky. Like, I was like, she's not even, I was like, this is not scary.
Yeah.
And then that's kind of once I knew, I was like, oh, I think we're going to be friends. I was like, I'm really excited now. And I have to ask, like, were you always the person to like lighten the mood and just be like, let's have a good time? Or did you grow into that?
Honestly, it's kind of crazy because I feel like I was always kind of like the goofball, like on every team but I was super serious. But I would only pull that like goofballness out if I needed to lighten the mood a little bit and people were getting a little too serious. Let me tell you something. I'm the most competitive person. Ask anybody. Like I need to win. Like I know it's not. We're like.
Saw you yesterday. End of our last game.
Yeah, I was getting a little competitive. I was getting a little competitive. I was getting a little bit of.
Just getting a little stressed.
A little banter, but
understandably.
Yeah, that's a whole nother story with men and how they talk down to us women all the time and just drives me nuts. That's a whole nother thing.
We have to get into that, but
we will get into that. But I will say, when you know that I'm coming to something, you know that we're gonna have a good time because I'm like the easiest to get along with. Yeah. Because most people don't think that about me, and then they meet me. I remember this one time growing up, this girl was coming to our team. She was switching to our team, and like midway or like at the end of practice, she like pulls me aside. She's like, "I'm not gonna lie to you, I was so scared to be on your team." And I said, "Why?" Because on the field, like I'm not a nice person. Like I'm the B word for sure.
I have to say, when I was like getting ready for this, I was like, let me do a little deep dive. And I love that one of the first things that came up was that your college nickname was Bone Crusher. And I was like, Sess? I was like, well, she's so nice and sweet. Like, you would never know meeting you in a social thing. But you are on the field, you're totally tough, gritty, all that you need to be to play at the levels that you have. But you'd never know off the field, like, because you're so friendly and nice and very bubbly and outgoing. So I was like, Bone Crusher. And then I was like, holds the record for squat at Purdue women's soccer with 300 pounds. I said, wow, girl.
Ask me how much I do now. Yeah, after a few knee injuries. But at Purdue, I was like 3 times the size of this. I was like, I mean, to be fair, Big Ten soccer is like, it's crazy.
Physical,
yeah, it's very physical. I was a number 9 at the time too. Most people don't know. Like I was actually, people think I was a defender my whole entire career, but I was a 9 almost my whole entire career, even the first 3 years in the pros. And the only time and then I switched to being a defender my first day at national team camp. I learned that real quick. So yeah,
that's how it be sometimes.
And then 2 days later, starting against the USA, and you're kind of just like never played defense before, and you're like going up against Heather O'Reilly, who's like the fastest person in the world.
I can't.
He's like Mark Abby Wambach. I'm like,
no.
Okay. You know.
Well, this is all checking out because you broke the goals and assists record at Purdue, and I was like, as a defender, I was like, who has just let this girl go forward? So you play forward. Transition. I feel like we have to, before we get into the good stuff, the juicy stuff that we're always talking about. I have to ask because you played during the rough years of pro soccer. Like it was
the beginning stages.
It wasn't a good time.
Like, we paved the way for you all.
Yes, when you look at it now, you're like, wow, it's amazing. Like it's come so far, but I feel like people have kind of forgotten how bad it was, and it was bad. So like when you finished college.
I didn't have a league, actually.
The league had just collapsed, the WUSA, and then you're sitting there, like, coming off this great, like, All-American season where you normally have this really easy, like, paved path, like, you win your little awards, you go to the little All-American banquet, and they're like, okay, which team do you want to play on now? We're about to draft you away and ship you off. And then
we didn't have any of that.
Feeling in that moment? Because you probably were, like, you were seeing that league and thinking, like, okay, logical path.
Yeah.
Then you hear the collapse. What was your next thoughts?
I think it was hard because in that day and age, so many years ago, there was not a lot of social media. Yeah. There really wasn't the resources that there are today with like mentors and agents and all that. We didn't have NIL. We didn't have any of those things. So it's kind of, and I come from like a very small city.
Yeah.
Like I didn't really have somebody kind of like mentoring me through this path. And so I came off this amazing college career and I'm like, okay, I'm not done. Like I want to keep playing. Like I have the hunger and the drive, you know. I remember me as a young girl watching the 99ers. I'm like, I need to make it to that stage one day. And, you know, Purdue gave me so much, top 10. We were like we had such an incredible team. And, you know, looking up to Mia Hamm, Michelle Akers, that generation, Brianna Chastain, all those girls coming out of WUSA just folded. They didn't have any place to play. We didn't have any place to play. I had no idea what to do. I didn't think about going overseas. I didn't know. I really just had no idea. Like you just don't know, right? So I went and I worked for IBM, shout out IBM. Had a great job in Indianapolis for like a year and a half. But on the side, I was playing like semi-pro and I was like, just in case. Because there was like rumblings, you know? Yeah. You would hear things. I still didn't have an agent. I didn't have anybody telling me the process.
There was like
nobody knew anything. Like I wasn't in the know of like anything. And then there was rumblings that they were making the WPS, which was, people don't know that was the league before the NWSL. Because it was around for 3 years.
The WPS. I remember watching that.
Yeah, it was quality soccer. You know, unfortunately someone messed up that whole entire league for everybody and that's why it disbanded. But I mean, made way for the NWSL, but I had a great time. I mean, I didn't play much in those years, but I learned a lot, and I got to play with Hope Solo and, you know, like Carly Lloyd and like all these, Heather O'Reilly. Like it was a really great 3 years where we all kind of came together because we're like, if we're gonna make things work, we gotta help each other.
Yeah, it was. So, I remember when that folded. And it's hard to remember now because now the NWSL feels so strong and there's so much investments, which is like amazing. But it's like hard to remember like not that long ago that like all of these great players that people had been looking up to, watching in the World Cups, like had nowhere to go, nowhere to play, and were just like floating.
Yeah.
And now the path is definitely like so much clearer.
Yeah. I probably would have retired too, because they didn't even know that, because they said like, hey, the NWSL, they had told us like, hey, we didn't know about it. And then when we finally knew about it, because let's say it disbanded, was 2010, 2011, around there?
Yeah.
2009 is, I don't know, I'm messing up because they had the combine for it. So 2009 is when the WPS started, because that's when they had the combine. And so now they're bringing back the combine this year, which I think is a great idea.
Yeah.
It's not just a straight draft, which I think is great.
We talked about this.
Yeah, to find some untapped talent. So smart. And so that was 2009. So then 2011, like going into the Olympics, is kind of when it went under. And then none of us had any place to play. And they told us, hey, they're going to try it one last time. And if it doesn't work, they're never having women's professional soccer in the U.S. again. So then the NWSL came, and now it's been.
Yeah.
I mean, I can understand.
And you had a chance to play in the NWSL as well. That was like very different, I'm sure. Than the NWSL now, even, because that was still like those early phases of like trying to get the funding, trying to get it organized. And I feel like
it was my first time with my first real contract as well, NWSL.
That's crazy. Can you like give me like a little insight, because I mean, we're so used to what it is now, and I'm familiar with, you know, talking to friends and being around those environments myself, and it's so professional now. Like the facilities, the fields, the way that it's conducted. I mean, there's some hiccups.
Yeah, but
compared to like
what we had,
what it started as, like, have you, looking at what you kind of see now, even if it's just like the media, and then how it started for you guys, what's that contrast like of like what you were looking at? And you were excited because at the same time you said first real contract.
Yeah, well, first real contract, but let me tell you and preface this that my first real contract was this is when they had like the 4 like developmental players on the roster. So they had split it up as like the 18 roster players getting full contracts and then developmental players. So it was like split like that. They don't do that anymore. Everyone gets full contracts, which I agree with. But my first year in the pros, we lived out of a hotel. The whole entire team lived out of a hotel.
That's wild.
And I was making roughly around between $500 to $700 a month. Because I was on a developmental contract because
that's so wild.
Like I was a drafted player. But then this is like a full circle moment. It's kind of crazy how all this happened. I was drafted to Chicago. Yeah. Okay, so I get to Chicago. Emma Hayes is the coach at the time.
Yeah.
So this is full circle scene.
Emma, seeing her. Like,
but she was also very green as a coach. Like she's transitioned to an incredible coach that she is now, and I give her so many flowers for that. But I remember in these coaching sessions, they paid no mind to anybody except their starting 11. I'm like, how do you even know who your starting 11 is? You don't even know any of us, right? It was just like political back then. I mean, it still is. Sports is very political.
That's the one thing.
But it was even worse back then because nobody knew.
And that's hard to imagine because I think it's crazy now. You talk to people and hear the individual stories and you can't believe.
Yeah.
And I think that's the one thing people don't realize who maybe didn't play sports or just aren't deep enough in these environments is I do feel like it can seem very like flowers and everything's going so good. And I think that's maybe what they're seeing is those like big time athletes, and those are for every sport, but obviously like football is the ones that like come to mind where it's like, oh wow, like getting treated so good and it's all like contract is all professional and cut and clean. But that's so not.
But I think it's a
like
double-edged sword. Yeah, because I think it's a double-edged sword too, because it's like when these people get, you know, contracts or whatever, they get drafted, they think it's always going to be rainbows and butterflies, and they're automatically getting these contracts. And I remember telling some of these players that were coming in that were drafted players, I said, look, you need to pick it up. Like, you're going to get cut. He can take your contract away. But they don't know that because they don't tell you that in college, right? And so many people got cut because of that. But going back to, you know, being in Chicago, then I got traded right away to Jersey, where we actually ended up winning that year. But we all lived in a hotel with a baseball team. It was the most random. Honestly, it was fun, though, because it's like you get free food because they were always like cooking food at the hotel for us. So that was great. We were all working multiple jobs at the time. That wasn't that great.
Yeah.
I played 1 minute that year. 1 minute. I almost scored a goal in that 1 minute.
1 minute with a ring.
1 minute. We went through 3 coaching changes. That's a whole other story that maybe we should not talk about. But we ended up winning that year. And then a new team came next year, Atlanta. So then I was with Atlanta for my final 2 seasons. And that was good, but also kind of craziness as well. When, the St. Louis team went under, then we got like Tina Ellerson, Carly Lloyd, Lori Klupney, that team's Heather Mitz, Hope Solo, all these players. So I remember that time where the coach, I had gotten a full contract, and basically he's like, well, St. Louis, is no longer they're disbanding, so we need to take all these players. I said, no, they need to come in and earn these contracts. Like, don't take my contract away from me. He took the contract away from me. He basically told me I was the worst player he's ever seen. I wasn't good at anything. My confidence was like, and I told him, I was like, I don't have an agent. I don't know what I'm going to do. Like, I don't know the process. Like, what do I do? And I'm like, can I still practice with you until
Like, you find a new team.
I didn't know what to do, so I just asked. I mean, usually that's not something people would let happen. But I was like, I need to find a team. Can I just like train so I don't lose my fitness? And he's like, yeah. So the next day I was so angry. I went out there, I scored like a bunch of goals, and I was so angry. He pulls me aside and he's like, I didn't know you could do that. I said, yeah, you never gave me a chance. And then he re-signed me that day, and I said, I thought you didn't have any contracts. It's just like,
it's
you
wild.
learn. And then Carly Lloyd's coach came in, James Galanis, he turned the whole program around. He told me, he's like, because you are a hard worker, you're going to play. And that's when I started picking up minutes. And then that's when Canada, I had been reaching out to Canada for years, and they're like, no, we don't want you. And I was like, please give me a chance. Like, I promise.
Just see me once.
Just see me once. And at the time, it was the Italians that was Carolina and that regime. And they had just lost the 2011 World Cup. And when John Herdman came in, I know, unfortunately, his name right now is not good in the soccer world, but I will say something great about John. He came in and changed the whole entire program around. I will give him his flowers. And he gave opportunities to people that would have never gotten opportunities. And he made it a winning program. I mean, 2 months after that, we had a gold medal. And then a couple months after that, we had a bronze medal.
Yeah. And you were a part of that.
I was a part of that.
How was that? Like, I mean, I've never experienced it, but I can imagine what it feels like to represent your country on a level, on that stage, and just everything in that environment it has to be surreal.
It was so surreal because, I don't know if people know that are watching, I'm a dual citizen. So I grew up in Wisconsin, but my dad is Canadian, and basically Wisconsin, Canada is pretty much the same thing. We love cheese curds. We love cheese curds. I say A all the time, and I would always go camping in Canada, so I'm just as much Canadian as American. And, it was such a surreal moment because ever since I was young, I wanted to be on the national team. U.S. or Canada, which I grew up watching both. I was like, wherever I get the opportunity, I'm going to go in and I'm going to crush it. I hadn't been playing much. I had a great college career. You go into the pros, it's a whole different ballgame. You don't play much. Confidence. I remember the day before I got the call for the national team, I was crying to my dad. I was like, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. Like, I gave it. Wild. I have no regrets. I did it. I just am not good enough. And I truly, like, at that time, believed I wasn't good enough, even though I knew I was good enough. It's just like, it kind of depletes you a little bit. So then I get the call the next day, and I'm like, well, what? Is this real life? Like, I thought it was fake. And they're like, yeah, we're bringing you to camp. First day at camp, John's like, you're left-footed, you're tall, and you're strong. Left back. I was like, I've never played defense in my life. I was like, okay, I'll try it, whatever. I had played basketball. I was a huge basketball player. That's why I love having kids play multiple sports. I think it's the best thing ever for them. I'm telling you now.
Couldn't agree more.
If I wouldn't have played basketball, I don't think I would have been the defender that I was, because I was always at the top of the key. I knew how to use my body. I knew how to read players, and that translated into soccer when I started at the left back. So I remember in practice, he throws me there. Literally have no idea what I'm doing. I'm like, just play soccer. I go and I just whack it upper 90. He turns to me and he was like, Sesselmann. And I was like, and then he pulls me aside after practice. He's like, look, this camp we're playing USA twice. You're starting. I swear I was about to like pee my pants. I was like so scared. I was like, I'm like, because like obviously you're watching the U.S. You know how good these
Yeah.
players are. You know how fast they are. I'm like, maybe I'm not fast enough. Maybe I'm not. Like you doubt, and then you're just like, you know what? No. I was like, and so I remember stepping out. I think it was in Kansas. I don't know where the first game was, Kansas City or can't remember. I've had a lot of concussions. Sorry. And my matchup was Heather O'Reilly, like on the, her coming down the flank.
yeah.
Okay, first of all, Heather O'Reilly is probably one of the fastest players I've ever
Lightning, pacey.
seen
Yeah.
in my entire life. But
Easily.
I knew how to use my body.
We
And
got
I
to see that in
learned how to
action.
use my body, which was the best thing that ever happened to me. So I was able to understand how to play against a player like that. I mean, she got me a few times, but I did get her a few times as well. And I thought it was a great matchup. We ended up tying, I think, both of those games. And people were like, okay, Canada, where'd you come from?
Didn't know you could ball like that.
Yeah, and then we got gold in Pan American Games in Guadalajara in that October. And yeah, we just kept building from there. And it was, and then, 2015 World Cup, I got to do everything I ever set my heart out to do. I have no complaints. I did join the team when I was 26, 27, so I was a little bit later in life. But hey, everything happens for a reason. It was the right path for me. So, and then from there, my professional career was incredible, after that. So it's crazy how like when someone finally believes in you, then the rest of the world finally believes in you. Even though you're like, hey, I have this talent my whole life, but like,
It's so
it's
like
crazy,
that.
because,
Oh yeah, and it's always that thing of people, wow, I didn't know that you were good.
I didn't
like
know you were good.
I
Oh,
had
that's
no
so
idea.
weird.
And then they're like, when did you get good? As if getting good at becoming the player that you are is like a quick overnight change. Like you really can just like turn it on and be like, okay, yeah, now I'm gonna like really start trying, guys. Like, like no, I've been trying the whole time. It just got a little unlucky. Like it's so much goes into it on and off the field.
Oh,
and
yeah.
a lot of that, like you said, like it's, you're working hard, you're doing what you can, but there's such an element of like, it's up to fate. Like someone has to select you for these things. You're not like always having the opportunity to just go. I think people like aren't in these spheres think like, oh, there's like these mega tryouts and everyone's getting seen and they're picking the best players. It's like, no, you have to know someone to get invited to the mega tryout. And it's not even a mega tryout, it's like 20 people.
Well, it's the same thing for this upcoming combine. It's like invite only. I'm like, all these girls are reaching out to me. Like, how do we get an
How do you
invite?
invite it? Yeah.
And I was like, it just needs to be open-ended. Like,
Yeah.
that's how these girls get noticed. There's so many diamonds in the roughs that we don't even know about. There's so many good players out there.
I do think that the combine is good for both players and for teams, because I think some people had some concerns of like, oh, like for players, like, well, don't have a good showing maybe in that day. But at the same time, it's like you want to end up on a team that fits your skill set, and the coach actually is coaching a style that you'll play in. And when they just see you playing with your college team, it can be deceiving because every team plays differently. They play against different opposition. Like I think it's good for the coaches to see you live in person, get a chance to speak with you potentially, so then you can make sure that you end up in the right spot too. Because a lot of people go to teams and, like you said, you end up on a team where you're just not playing. And it's not like maybe you're not a good enough player, you're just not on the right team or in the right position. So I think it's good for both. And it prevents the situations where like, okay, maybe this is not the fit for you. But now you just took a spot away from someone else who would have been a good fit for. So now both sides are in a bad position because now you have a player that doesn't fit your system. You're not playing them. They're not happy to not be playing. So it's it's kind of a lose-lose all the way around. So I'm excited.
Did you go to a combine?
No, we didn't have that. So it was still
draft.
draft.
It was just the draft.
It was draft, and then last year was like kind of what was it last year? It was like a signing period. It was very strange. Last year was weird. It was like no draft, but you could like sign at any time.
Yeah, I don't know.
Last year seemed a little bit.
They had a lot of like trials and stuff, so like you can get invited into like a trial there.
I heard that, but from talking to players, it seemed like it was almost harder than the draft, and everyone was kind of opposed to the draft. But then the new situation with the signing was almost harder because you had to have like a direct in with these coaches. Oh, small flag.
Sorry.
Oh, not in the cup.
Did it go in there?
No.
No. Okay, we're good. Don't worry, the wine is okay. All right.
No, well, I have to ask too because we talk a lot about soccer. You work in soccer now, so we're around it all the time. When things were kind of wrapping up, because you said like you have to do everything in your career, but it's never easy to walk away. It's never easy, even if you know it's coming. Like everyone knows you can't play forever. One day you're gonna hang up the cleats. but it never feels like the right time. Like, I don't
No.
know many people who are like, oh yeah, like I was ready to be done and I just hung them up and just
Yep.
moved off my life. I'm those people. I'm so envious. I don't know how you do it.
I
Like,
find that like I've noticed like talking to some of my like male friends that played,
yeah,
it was easier for them to kind of walk away. And I don't know
maybe that's just
what the
yeah,
story
with
is behind it, but I think for like
psychological-
a lot of the women that I will say this though, a lot of women kind of, I feel, have like what's next kind of lined up. I did not.
See, I did my thesis on this, on like what athletes go through during that period of transitioning out of sport, because
Yeah.
it's like a small death.
It is.
It's like a small death because this is your personality, it's your career, it's also your social situation. It's a little bit of everything. And then
You're up here.
one day you just wake up and you're like, everything's different. I have no idea my identity. Like, who am
Yep.
I? What am I going to do with my life? But I did notice, talking to the athletes, more of the women had backup careers lined up than the male athletes, but I felt like some of the female athletes still took it harder even though they had
Oh, yeah.
jobs lined up. But I want to ask you, because I know that we've kind of talked about this,
Yeah.
like that transition for you. I mean, how was
a
that?
rough
I'm
one.
sure it's hard.
It was rough because I think at the time, we're coming off the 2015 World Cup. Obviously, you know, I went through a rough time where I started every game, I played every game, still crushed it, coming back from an ACL, but obviously people always remember the negative moments. And when I fell in the quarterfinals, first of all, we shouldn't have been playing on turf. Let's talk about that's a huge topic of discussion. No big tournament, like you should just not be playing on turf. They were watering the turf. It was very, very slippery. Everybody was slipping and falling. As you noticed, even in the final U.S. versus Japan, it was like everything was on the ground because people were falling so much.
It's weird that it's
just
gotten better, but these conversations are still happening. I mean, most recently, like with the Giants, with their turf field, so many of the players have gotten hurt there. They don't want to play there, and no changes. It's like crazy this many years later, so many incidents, like to still have these situations.
Yeah.
And I think like obviously you're not seeing the World Cup played on that anymore, but you're still seeing like qualifying matches and lower levels. Even like college, a lot of colleges are still turf.
Well, it's not even about playing the turf. They were watering it, which I didn't understand, but it's crazy because most male soccer players refuse to play
On the turf.
on turf, and they say they won't play. They refuse to play,
Oh,
like
yeah.
Messi, like
Yeah,
all those guys, all the top
notably
European.
many.
They're like, I'm not playing. I'm not going to that game. And it's funny because obviously they have a voice. We did not have a voice. We were told that if we spoke about it, we would be kicked off the team. And you're like, okay, well, I want to play in the World Cup. I'm just gonna have to like deal with it. So unfortunately, in that game against England, first of all, we should have won the game regardless of me slipping and falling, because we did have a lot of opportunities.
Yeah.
And you know,
It's a team sport.
it's a team sport.
It's a team sport.
I slip and fall. I get death threats. You know, I come off an
insane,
incredible,
really.
incredible Olympics where people like, you know, goal line saves, like,
Yeah.
you know, I had the assist for us to go, you know, and then I had
Yeah.
the assist for us to win. And it's just like, I had an incredible Olympics and people are like, wow, Sesselmann's like a freaking good defender,
Yeah.
you know? And for me, it's like, you work so hard to get to that.
Oh.
And it's like 1 millisecond
Decades.
of where you slip and you fall. And
It's
you're
like
getting,
not even your fault, because it's
not
not
your
like
fault.
you made
It's
a
just,
mistake.
like,
You literally
unfortunate.
slip and fall.
And everybody does it. You've seen Messi miss and fall and do all these things, but it's because it's Messi. Like nobody cares, right? You know, like they'll just be like, oh, you know, whatever.
Human
but
nature.
like, if it's you, like I was getting the worst death threats I've ever. Like
Who
I
was
was.
that? I have to ask,
This was
like,
in
who-
Canada.
Are these coming from like the Canadian fans mostly?
All fans that were there for the
Wow.
World Cup because it was in Canada.
Yeah.
But if I see you on the street, I'm going to beat you up. I'm going to cut you up. I'm going to find your fan. Like, it was
can't believe that.
bad. It was bad. And then the
That's
media didn't help as well, because after that game,
And this was the
I was
traditional
like,
media era, so like there's no platform for you to speak on these kind of things.
you're not allowed to say
You're-
anything.
Yeah, you're just like, there's just these reporters, and that's all the storylines are coming from the reports.
They
That's
had
it,
to
yeah.
they had to apologize to me because of how
Really?
so they wrote an article about me saying that I was like a bad person because I wouldn't talk to them after that. I was bawling my eyes out. Like, how do you think
like, what are you
everyone's
gonna
blaming
yeah.
you, like you let down Canada because you fell? And I was like, you know, you're a human. I think people forget that aspect. Like, you're human, right?
Yeah.
And like, you're going to feel some type of way because you've worked so hard to be at that moment and all the work it took to come back from the ACL. And, you know, it was unfortunate. You know, and like people were scoring own goals, and
Yeah.
you know, there's so many other things
were
that were
going on,
happening.
yeah.
Things were going wrong. Like it just wasn't whatever. You know, shit happens. Can I say that here? I don't know.
Yeah.
Shit happens. And you know, I think in that moment I didn't realize that maybe it was meant to happen to me for a reason. And now with what I'm doing, life after soccer, I've realized that. But I went through a very, very, very rough time after that where I completely lost myself. I also was going through severe concussions, which most people don't know about. Like, I got my head checked, and like I was going through a really, really hard time. I went into a very dark hole and was committed suicide. I've talked about that a little bit before in the past, and I had a really, really hard time. And then also it's like all you've known, what you said, to allude to what you said before, is your whole life is football. And it's like when it's done, who are you? And I didn't know who I was at that time because like I was doing side gigs here and there, but I was not ready because we were still training for the Olympics the following year, 2016 Rio. And I didn't know who I was. All I knew was soccer. All I knew was that I let everybody down, and it's not the way I wanted to end my career. So I went through a rough patch for a couple years. I lost myself.
I can't even imagine because I felt like just trying to walk away myself. Like, and I don't even think I fully closed the door because it's just so hard to.
It is hard. And you love it so much.
Yeah, but I can't imagine trying to go through that on top of the hate from people you don't know who've like never met you, like compounding that on top, like, because that's something that if that didn't happen, I think it's still such a hard transition. And then you have to go through that while feeling like you can't even just like be sad for yourself. Now you're like sad for your whole country because you feel horrible, like for the weight of that. And then not to mention the concussions, which I feel like is so much has changed around the way people talk about concussion, and concussion protocols obviously become so much more talked about. And I think they're more responsible now.
Are they? It's a little bit better. They could be a lot better.
It could always be better. For sure.
But it is getting better.
To be fair, I mean, even just like now calling games.
Yeah.
This is the first time they've had mandatory head checks on people when they get hit in the head. Before, like even, and I have been calling games for 2 years, but I only played, 4 years before that. So only in the last 2 years. Before that, they were only checking people if they were down on the ground, like not getting up quickly or like looking like they were out of it. And that's not always, that's like, that to me, like, obviously if they're down like that, then that's like an obvious moment. But if you hit heads with somebody, you hit heads with somebody. Whether or not you're on the ground or you're standing up, that does not negate the fact that you just smacked your head against another human's head. And so I feel like that should have always been the case. Like, because it takes 10 seconds. Stop the clock, check and make sure, have them step out versus have people have lifetime damage. I mean,
it's crazy. And it's like I've talked to so many people that have had like similar stories because obviously like I would always have the coach be like, are you okay? Are you okay? I'm like, and then you're telling yourself, I guess I'm okay, but you're not okay.
You're like,
and then you're like kind of like having this inner battle and you're like, I think I can play. I have to play. Coach needs me. Everyone's like, you know, and it's like I've had my head cracked open multiple times. I've collided with the goalpost. And obviously being a center back, left back, you're taking I literally was always heading the ball, like going up for set pieces and everything. So it's like, you don't realize when you're taking a ball from a keeper, kicking it, punting it like 200 yards in the air or whatever it is, and you're like taking that out of the air, like it's gonna have damage. Like you don't think until so like you see.
People only think, and that's the thing. Like I was talking about two people hitting heads, but the ball itself hitting your head that many times at that force is still equally as dangerous. And I don't think that's something that anyone in soccer was thinking about.
We're talking about the biology of us, right?
Yeah, women, your brain is like,
well, our necks are inherently weaker than men. Yeah. So this is why we're more prone to concussions and all that stuff, and like, you know, knee injuries.
Between
all
that
and
ACL, it's like it's just not.
It's you know, but you don't think about. Nobody teaches you that. Yeah. I didn't know. So I'm out here like racking my brain. Like almost every goal I scored was a freaking header in college. You know, like here I am just like throwing my body on the line because that's just the type of player I am. And here I am, like, my head's, like, separating. I'm, like, holding it together. And then they're like, go back out. So staple it real quick, and you go back out. And it's just, like, you don't think about it until literally my brain chemistry changed. And I think it was, like, a mixture of being, like, going through the retirement process, but also really finding out that I had serious brain damage, basically.
Yeah.
So you say I'm a happy-go-lucky person. Everyone knows me as a happy-go-lucky person. So the only people that really saw the really bad side of me were my parents, bless their hearts, because they were like, who are you? I would be driving, randomly start crying. Just like full blown tears, being like,
Yeah.
every thought was negative. I was mean. I'm not a mean person. I'm like the nicest person you'll ever meet.
I can attest
I was
to
like
that.
yelling at, my parents like, what is wrong with you? I'm like, but then you start to be like, there's something wrong with me because I'm not this person.
It's like
And
out of body experience.
yeah. So when you hear about like the CTE that's, you know, so prevalent in American football, you're like, I get it. And like, nobody can fully understand it unless it's happening to them. So they'd be like, oh, like, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? And I'm like, you don't really know, right?
Yeah.
I could tell that like my character was shifting, and I was like, this is not me, and I don't want to be this person in this space. And luckily, I was grateful enough to come out and do some brain testing with the Amen clinics out here. I mean, I could not afford, this program is obviously male money type of program and like male athlete money program. Thankfully, they gave it to me for free, and they were like, let's take. So basically what we found out is the blood was not flowing to the frontal part of my brain.
Really?
And it was causing severe depression.
Wow.
So every thought was negative in my brain. And that's why when I took my parents' car out, this is a little bit deep for these kids listening, but I'm so sorry. But when I took my parents' car out, and I was in front of a tree, in front of a hill, ravine, and I almost pressed on the gas. So I didn't want to be around there. I didn't want to be around anymore. You know, I know it's a heavy topic to talk about, but I think it's so important, especially with the youth listening, because mental health is such a big piece of this. The athlete world, and you can attest to this, is a very lonely place.
And it doesn't look like that.
It doesn't.
I feel like it's, when you see it on social media, it's very glitz glam. It's everyone's dream.
Yeah.
It's everybody's dream to be those people. And like, so tragically, the timing of this is crazy because of the defensive player that just died on the Cowboys. And
I cried. I saw that. I cried.
And then, I did too.
And obviously,
because I'm like, I can, to some piece, like, I know what that feeling feels like. And it's, what like really struck me is I think people were so shocked to find out that he was a current player. He had just had an interception just days ago. Like, I think people think like, oh, those are the athletes that are retired. They already have CTE. Like they're trying to cope with not being famous. Like, no, this guy was famous. He was good. He was playing. It's like he was in what would be his prime, and that still can happen to someone in what looks like, I'm sure, a dream moment in his career, right? Like, everyone's probably like, oh, it's going so good. So I think it's like you have to check in with people, and just like the awareness, like, people don't talk about that stuff. So you have situations like this, and then you start hearing about it. But all these things are still happening. You're just not always hearing. Did you know Katie Meyer? I did, yeah.
Yeah, and I played with her when she was out here as well in that story. And you're hearing these stories like so much. And so that's why it's kind of helped me transition into what I'm doing now with players, and like mentoring them and being a safe space. You know, we didn't have that growing up in our generation. You could never just like reach out to somebody and like, you know, really ask anything, or you felt like you just couldn't because you were like, I'm a rough and tough athlete. I'm not gonna ask, you know.
I don't need help from anybody.
I realize I get so many messages from young kids, even adults, and they don't want to talk to their coaches. They don't want to talk to their parents, and they need someone to talk to. And I feel like I'm just like a safe space, and that's what I want to be for these athletes. So,
well, I feel like connecting with you, we had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But I could tell that you're a deep person, and that I feel like I could come to you with something, and I knew you could be there for me. And I think that's a special light to be able to bring to people's lives. And so I appreciate you for that, and for sharing, because it's like really hard to talk about, because I think
it is.
For me, like, I have been in those moments as well, and I didn't share with barely anybody in my life. Like, I don't know if anyone, but
really
a few
knows.
people knows, because it's like hard to go and share that, not knowing how people are gonna look at you.
Yeah, you don't want to be vulnerable. You don't want to look at your partner. You're supposed to be like,
like, you want everyone to, you know, to be the positive. And I felt the same way, like, in a lot of my spaces that I'm in. I feel like I'm the funny, like, friend who's like trying to lift the mood. And so I was like, I don't want people to, you know, look at me different. Well, not look at me differently, but I think I've like realized how important it is to hear from other people, because that's what was like life-changing for me, was seeing other people that in my own circle, or people I looked up to who were like, I felt this way, and I'm like, okay, so it's not just me. Like, I'm not crazy for feeling like that. And so it's so, I feel like now I try to change the way I'm like approaching those conversations with people, and I'm glad that you shared that because like it means a lot to me, and I know a lot of people will like resonate or just like helps in building understanding.
Yeah.
So that's I think what's so important is like changing the conversation, and that's like getting into the media space. That was huge for me.
Yep.
Was giving a light, and I know this is something that's important to you too. I want to hear like how you feel like things have changed in a positive way, and where you feel like maybe even just like a little more as someone who like you said, you're coming from an era of soccer where like, and just sports in general, where like no one's talking about it, and then now it's like getting, we're seeing some light in here and there.
That's a good question. I love that people are finding their voice, and I think social media, whether you think there's pros and cons to it, there's definitely the downside to social media, but I think the pros to it is like people really sharing their stories and sharing their voice and how they feel. And I think all the athletes kind of, not even if you're an athlete or not, just like people banding together and like kind of uplifting each other and be like, hey, I'm going through this too. Let's talk about it. And, I think for me was seeing like Kevin Love, like come out and really,
I remember that,
especially as a man, right? Be
in
kind of like the first that
too,
kind of, that like kind of used his voice to talk about mental health. And then I'm watching this and then I'm like, okay, well, I'm not afraid to talk about what I'm going through because most people will have no idea. And then I talked about it, and I had so many people reach out to me after like I spoke about it uninterrupted, and people were like, Lauren, like the uninterrupted crew was like, Lauren, that was like so vulnerable of you to be able to share that. When you shared that, you've like, look at how many people, like it was one of the most watched videos because I was sharing something nobody had no idea about. And so many people could align with. And, now these pressures of social media to be the youngest to do this, the youngest to do that. You have to be 11-year-olds to make a pro team. Look, you don't have to. Like, be a kid, enjoy life, go to college, enjoy that. Like, there are a few players here and there, and like it would be great if but like now you can make NIL money, you can do all these things. Like, you can use your platform for good. And
no, I think that's, you bring up Kobe. I'd like to see the athletes be able to make money off of NIL because I think that's important because it's hard to support yourself without being able to make money because you're playing all the time. But I think also it's great to see people like doing deals that also like can have these like helpful community impact while still being able to like make money to live because like that's I think both are important. You can't just like be giving away time and money all the time. But like this combination I've been seeing, I'm like, okay, the brands that are doing those things, I'm like, I really respect you. Like I want to buy things from those brands when I see that because I'm like, wow, like you really are here for the right reasons. So I'm like, okay, the good side of NIL, there's, it's
I missed that era. So if anybody wants to give me some back pay, I'll take it because, it was hard being a female athlete. So.
I think you would have been really marketable.
Thanks, girl.
I'm pretty sure this would have been your bread and butter.
I would have,
You might have been the soccer Livy Dunn. I think you would have been.
Yeah.
I feel pretty confident that you would have been. It's okay. You're just doing it now in your new life, but
I'm trying.
Yeah, more business.
If anybody wants to support, I'm open.
I'm like, we're actually gonna take the podcast on the road. We're thinking all major cities.
I'm pretty sure that
we're thinking New York, Vegas, Toronto.
That people would just absolutely love it. Well, maybe we're gonna go back to Purdue for sure. Indiana. We'll make a stop in Indiana.
Yes, there is some. I've got to expand my horizons.
You do. I need to take you and show you some things.
I have never been to Green Bay. I've never seen a real life cornfield. I'm just kidding.
Have you seen a cow before?
Honestly, it's been a
Let
minute.
me ask you a question. Have you seen good football? Because I will take you to Lambeau Fields.
I don't want to hate on any of the colleges that I've been to, but I think I'm open to seeing some new football.
What about NFL?
I grew up a Raiders fan. It's been tough.
Ooh.
It's always.
Can someone help her out? Like tell her to.
So I would love to see.
Look, we'll give Tom Brady a little bit of a shout out because we're just hoping that investment money would have turned this team around.
Well, I'm like, at least we have the beautiful stadium. You got to start somewhere.
You do.
At least we have this beautiful stadium. I'm hoping to at least go with my family. We haven't gone and seen a game yet. I said, well, I understand that the quality of play maybe hasn't jumped as much as we've wanted, but I'm like, how
you still
fun
gotta support.
Would a trip to Vegas be? I'm like, should we go anyways?
I think so.
You're
plus one. Let's go. Allegiant Stadium?
I'm actually going in December, but there's no games that weekend. Sad. I'm still going.
I'm actually going to Vegas this weekend.
That's right. Oh, have fun for me. In
Well,
memory of me.
I
like,
will
in my
say,
spirit.
like, Vegas, though, is getting about, in like a year or two,
were
about to
just talking
become
about
the
this.
biggest sports hub.
Shout out the Aces.
Yeah, I love
My mentor does video for them. She's killing it. Katie Morgan. And they are so good. I can't, no, that's
I wanted
a game
to be a
that
WNBA player before soccer.
For people
Basketball
who
was
don't
my first
know,
love.
though, Lauren is very tall.
I am tall.
Like,
well, yeah. Not very, but like I'm like average, like 5'8".
I'm short though.
I will say that I'm a lot taller than all of my soccer friends.
Yeah,
So
like
I'm
on
like a
our
whole head
team, you were
taller.
the tallest player on our team yesterday, men included.
Yeah.